Welcome back, everybody. It's time for the epic conclusion of tonight's matches. We have our two losing teams for today's matches playing against each other now. It's MVP here on the left side of things.
Yeah, totally newly formed team, taking a bunch of members from Prime. Of course, a lot of you must know MarineKing is over there as well, a bunch of different names. But over here we got KT, another fan favorite team down here, one of the telecom companies with their teams that have a big lineup, usually bringing the four same players, Stats, TY, Flash, and Zest. We're going to see them here once again today.
That we will. Now, starting things off with MarineKing and Stats. Stats is highly favored. MarineKing's looking stressed out. The way I could see him walking there, he looks pretty stressed. Stats, on the other hand, an awkward handshake, man. I wouldn't be the one to want to face MarineKing with his recent incredible TVP record. MarineKing, of course, having to play a completely different matchup. In the last series he played, he actually lost to Dark's Roach Corruptor, Baneling type of unique composition when they played against each other last time. And now, of course, going to play that matchup he did so well on to get another second place finish in the GSL Hot 6 Cup, where he played only Terran versus Protoss for the entire tournament. Lucira, man, I love his mustache.
It's great, man. Hero looking good as well.
Hero, of course, not coming from Prime. They've got a lot of members coming from IM. Hero not coming from IM technically because he's a Team Liquid player still, but he was representing IM last time. Younghwa, of course, an IM player. Seed, an IM player a long time ago. And, of course, just kind of rounding out the rest of these rosters. There's Sleep, by the way, on the right side of things. Didn't get to play his match last time, as the team was eliminated before that happened.
Yep. The studio here is still packed with fans of both teams. And guys, we've been over this a little bit before the break, but I guess quickly we can go over it once again. It's going to be MarineKing up against Stats in game number 1 on Deadwing. Then we're going to go into Departure versus Merry-Go-Round, or rather versus TY on Merry-Go-Round.
Sometimes it feels that way in ZVT on that map.
Sometimes, man. And then we go into Panic versus Zest on Catalina, and then Lucira versus Flash on King Sejong Station.
Now, Overgrowth will be the ace match if it comes to it. So another two-player map to have in the ace match. I like two-player maps in ace matches because it feels like it's more personal. It's more 1v1. It's more me versus you to decide everything. Fate will be sealed after that if we go to that final ace match, of course. Now, favorites in this match, definitely KT Rolster. Stats, of course, a player who has to play against MarineKing's best in recent matchup, but MarineKing has looked off form. He lost to Parting in the SSL qualifiers, Parting just reading him like a book. And then, of course, he had that tough match against Dark that he lost. Dark wrecked him. Departure hasn't ever really proven himself in Pro League. Panic had his moments when he was on StarTale a long time ago, but never really came back to full form, although he's had some good recent games. And Lucira, a GSL finalist, but that was a long time ago. Up against Flash. Flash also having a tough time recently, though, keep in mind, especially in that same matchup, TVZ.
Yep. That they are. Well, we are going to go into an interview.
I hope you're all enjoying cheering for your favorite players. 안녕하세요, 아이유입니다. 이번 경기는 분위기 반전이 필요한 두 팀의 대결인데요. MVP 그리고 KT 감독님 만나보겠습니다. 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. 이영석 감독님, 프로리그 감독 대회를
Gonna go ahead and talk to Choya here, the coach of MVP first.
최악이셨어요. 사실 이영석
The last match was your debut match as a coach here in Pro League.
그러니까 진 거는 별로 상관이 없는데
It did not go well.
분들을 보니까 저희 벌써 플레이오프 탈락한 것 같은 듯한 반응이더라고요. 이제 한 경기 했거든요. 지금부터 이기면 된다고 생각하고 있어요. 별로 신경을 안 쓰는데 애들이 기 안 죽었으면 좋겠어요.
The fans, even though we lost even just one match, the fans are already saying that they're not going to make the playoffs, so it's making Choya feel pretty bad.
그냥 열심히 준비했지만 결과는 안 좋았지만 팬들이 굉장히 많은 사랑을 주셔가지고
But even though we prepared more for recent matches, we lost our last match. Fans continue to support for us and cheer for us. And that's, of course, something that's bringing us a lot of good, strength, giving us some power here.
모든 경기가 다 중요하시겠지만 이 경기는 꼭 이길 것이다 하는 매치가 있으신가요?
꼭 이길
It's a
것
match
같은
you
건
have to
머리에
win.
제일 중요할 것 같아요. 그러니까 기선을 갖고 오냐 못 갖고 오냐가 지금 분위기가
The first set will be really
좋았어가지고
important.
첫 세트 이기는
We have to win the
분위기가
first
제일
set to
관건이거든요.
gain momentum.
네, 그럼 오늘 해병왕 이정훈 선수의
That's why they put out MarineKing
기대가
first.
됩니다. 강동현 감독님, 이번 시즌은 한 팀당 한 번만 경기를 하게 돼서 1패 비중이 상당히 커졌어요. 그래서 2패를 하게 된다면
You face each team
다음
once
남은
only this
경기에
season.
부담이 커지는데
So every match is important.
팬분들을 안심시킬 수 있는 한 말씀 부탁드립니다.
네, 저희 오늘 꼴찌 결정전인데 꼭 승리해서 꼴찌하지 않도록 준비했고요. 그리고 제가 아까 말씀드렸던
So-
질문을 왜 안 하세요?
그 질문이요.
네.
사실 제 생각은
So last place
아니었지만
decision match,
고인규 해설님께서
so that he doesn't get last
SKT를
place.
조금 개인적으로 더
As after this, we'll have
좋아한다는
all 8 spots
의견을
kind of decided.
들었어요. 그리고 KT는 칭찬하지 않으신다는 제보를 제가 받았습니다. 이거에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시나요?
아율 씨는 어떻게 생각하세요?
저는 그렇게 생각을 하지 않지만
네, 그럼 됐어요.
네. 역시나 네.
So
당황을
basically,
시키시는
he asked her what she
감독이십니다.
thought, but I'm not sure what they're talking about. And she said she didn't think that, but I still don't know what they're talking about. But he
Maybe
said,
they're
okay,
just
that's,
joking
so
around.
that's just fine then. He was like, okay, that's all we need to hear. So
감사합니다라고 하는 줄
I'm
알고
not sure.
정말
I'm not
깜짝
sure what
놀랐습니다.
what they're talking about. I
Bit
think
of flirting between the KT coach and Ayul, I think, already. Beginning to start here.
I think actually what they're talking about is just like, is that something that you're really concerned about, like getting last place? Because KT, of course, are the winners of last round, and to lose here would put them in last place in the standings. This is not like the end of the first round or anything like that. Don't freak out. I know it's only the second week of Pro League.
I think it was just KT coach kind of just being a little bit, trying to be funny. Like he was like, "Oh, well, since this is like the last place match, it was him. He was brought it up, so everybody like started laughing." And like you were saying, I don't think KT really has to worry about that unless all of their players start slumping at the same time. And even then, I'm sure they would come back together for rounds 2, 3, and 4.
Well, guys, let's look at the entry today. They're pretty favored. I don't think they should be too worried or too concerned going into this match. They just need to play the games they've practiced, and I don't think there's anything to get stressed or panicked about here going into today's match. And obviously, also, it's not like the end of the world. If you get last place in the beginning of things, you can always bounce back. This is just the second week of Pro League.
And guys, today is TY's 7th anniversary from the debut. I believe the date there is December 5th, but they are celebrating it today. It is a big day here for KT, so we got more gifts, more sandwiches, more rice cakes, some of Wolf's favorite thing, some tomato juice and some peach juice. So if you come down to the studio, make sure you bring Wolf some of those juices.
I thought we made it clear. Pretzels are the way to go.
Okay, we'll see. Well,
and
TY's
Chipotle,
there.
if you can preserve that, please. Thanking you. All right, so I was shocked TY didn't know he was on camera, so it wasn't actually that epic of a shot or anything like that.
No, just preparing.
Well, there's a lot of fangirls. They even made some home-cooked sandwiches.
Yeah.
And by cooked, I mean they actually cooked some of the stuff that's in the sandwiches. It's not just like they made sandwiches for us. So
Korean steak sandwiches very seriously. It's not like just throw down some ham, some cheese, and some bread, and you're good. It's like it's a bit more complicated than that.
Except when I go to Subway, then it's kind of like just
that's not
simple.
No. Have you ever been to like a Korean sandwich shop? Do those actually exist?
Yeah, there's one really close to my house. They make paninis. I mean to take you there. It's really good. But they do take it very seriously. It actually takes a really long time to get those paninis
They
out.
cook
but
all
high
the
quality.
ingredients, make it good.
Panini is one of my favorite food. Definitely got me through my university days. I ate that almost every day because no matter what, it's a good day for paninis, man.
Yeah, that and pizza and ramen, I guess you can say, but not so healthy for your body.
I should have named my ID, my Twitter ID, Panini Wolf.
Panini Wolf? No, I wouldn't have liked that, actually. I like Proxy Wolf much better. Does relate to StarCraft, but what do you feel like is the most important thing here for MVP? Like, they have MarineKing going first. I feel like he has to win, but then after that, like, what can they actually do to beat this star lineup?
Well, they just need to bring their A game, and they also need to have prepared, really good builds. If they didn't do that, then they're already in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they have really good builds planned. I know Choya is a master build maker himself, and he's got these players that are smart, intelligent players who've done well in the past. Every player on that lineup, with the exception of Departure, I suppose, has had a really great moment in their career where everyone's saying, okay, this is one of the top players right now. At this moment, he's looking really good. Even Panic, for example, had a lot of great moments when he was on StarTale. And these guys are smart. They've got experience. If they've got a good build and they can execute it properly, we've already seen today what happens when you execute a really unique and different strategy, not necessarily a cheese build, but a different play style, a proxy. You can get ahead. You can get that momentum.
Yeah, definitely true. And these guys, I mean, this is one of the best teams here in Pro League. We were talking about how KT won last season. They lost their first match, so they're not looking quite as, on top of things as they were in terms of last season in Pro League. But, they are in a bit of a, in a rut here, and they're looking to take a big, kind of like step off the heads of MVP. But I feel like MVP, they have prepared more so for any other match than this one. They've prepared so much for this match. And I feel like, sometimes KT, they can take some teams lightly. You even see it in the attitude of the coach. It can be infectious to your players. Sometimes they go into the booth, they're like, oh, I'm playing against Departure. Who's that? And he comes out with a really nicely prepared build. He's still a pro gamer. Any of these guys, I feel like, can take a game if they're not paying attention.
Yeah. Well, I think KT Rolster is definitely feeling pretty stressed because of their position where if they lose this match, they will end up in last place, and they don't want to be that. They're the actual defending champions of this tournament, right? MarineKing's record versus Protoss is terrible in Pro League, but outside of Pro League, this this score is basically meaningless and irrelevant. This guy just basically got one series away from winning a tournament from playing only TVP.
Some pretty intense music as well.
Yes.
Wow. So, okay.
His opponent here is Stats, and this guy is a master of air. Don't give this guy a Tempest or an Oracle. He's going to get work done. He's got an incredible record versus Terran. Both of the stats here versus Terran and versus Protoss, of course, for these two players respectively, are in a period of Protoss dominance in Pro League, and they're very old statistics, not as relevant as recent ones. As the season develops, you'll actually get to see how these players really are looking in the matchup. Like when we get into round 3, for example, you'll have a much better picture.
I would even like to see, season stats as we get into those like most winning players and see the top, 20 or so players, get to see who's up there and playing. But anyway, Stats, he's playing very well recently, and he's up against MarineKing, a guy who's also playing pretty well, but sometimes inconsistent. If MarineKing shows up today, I think it's going to be a good match.
A lot of people are saying, was this a fluke? Was this like Sora's WCG run, then he falls off the map again? Everyone's waiting to find out. Let's go into game number 1, MarineKing versus Stats, to find out which one of these teams is going to take the lead.
Down here in the bottom right in the red, the Terran player, it is MarineKing.
Wow, that's actually a really cool drawing. It says MarineKing fighting with a cool drawing of a Marine. It also has the middle of MarineKing in Korean with the MVP shield. Now up to the top right, it's Stats, man of the air, very, very solid Protoss player. The only impressive individual results he's had is actually the WECG Korea Nationals, in which he was able to win. But he hasn't ever really done very well in individual leagues. Always been a solid KT player, though. We saw him come out more and more as KT's roster developed, going into round 2 and round 3 of last season. And now he's kind of a staple player.
Yeah, he's been there for a while as well. KT was kind of most famous for this 4-person lineup for a very long time. Even towards the beginning of round 1, they were beginning to do this, and we're beginning to see some other teams form into this a bit, as well as, Generic Green Wings. They have this kind of lineup sometimes, too. And, whatever works, just keep going with it. If you can play Pro League with 4 players, just go ahead and do that. If that's what gets you to win the entire thing, no reason to stop what you're doing.
Well, as it is now, we're spawned vertically here on Deadwing. So no cross spawns, which means the pull the boys type play is a lot stronger, although that's not really been MarineKing's strong suit. MarineKing likes to just get ahead by taking greedy bases and going for an economic route. We have seen him occasionally do drops, but a lot of MarineKing's success in this matchup has just been purely off of defending all-ins because his opponents know that he's greedy, but MarineKing has some of the best defense in this matchup out of all Terrans, so sometimes you'll see him take a risky third CC and then just slap down an all-in that comes his way. Not recommended to attack this guy early.
MarineKing this time being a bit more standard, not trying to be too greedy, even on a big map like this. Definitely get that orbital down, as well as the Reaper coming out here.
So, you know, I think this sort of play is pretty essential on this map to get that Reaper out. And sometimes you get this extra bonus where your opponent goes for a Nexus first. We see this from time to time. You can get some kills, you get that tempo, and you can scout everything. As it is now, we're going to see the CC planted. And the Zealot actually cancel at the very last second for stats as he places his Nexus as well. So very standard builds here. Mothership Core rushed out. And we'll see that Stalker come up here in just a moment as well. Taking that gas first, and Reaper comes across the map. He's actually going to check for proxies first just to be safe, and then is actually going to scout. It looks like he was thinking about scouting cross spawns first, but he was looking for that probe. That's pretty clever because that scouting path might have actually covered both, you know, scout patterns of stats. So I was hoping to get that probe.
As it stands, though, he will miss it, and the build we got out of MarineKing here is actually immediately adding the reactor on that barracks and adding 2 more racks very fast here. So we're going to see a lot of infantry units coming out. He's going to want to put on the pressure here onto Stats. He does see the timing of Stats' Nexus coming down here. You will know it's a pretty standard gate Cybernetics core into Nexus, canceling the Zealot, but he has not seen the tech yet, and the tech is Twilight Council.
Yep. Now coming in for another pass on this map is pretty tough because you do have to do the double jump to get into the main. If you want to go around the natural, you're much more likely to get spotted and pushed away. And with this probe's location here, there's a high chance we'll actually see a Dark Shrine hidden. Unfortunately for Stats, I don't think it's going to be hidden for very long if he decides to put a pylon down, as that Reaper is headed straight for that probe's location.
The probe's location, though, is very interesting here, actually. Does get spotted, as the scout path here of MarineKing was very, very nice. And we do see the blink coming down immediately. There's a chance that that probe could have been there just for a pylon, but like you were saying, you know, definitely could be a response here to getting his probe scouted to just throw down that blink instead.
Well, you know, that's what I was thinking. But I feel like, as I think about it more, if he was going for the Dark Shrine, the pylon would have had to be finished. Otherwise, he'd lose too much time hiding it. So I guess that was just going to be a pylon to warp in his Stalkers. And that may mean that because he was hiding that pylon and putting it over that early, that it was going to be a big commitment to Blink Stalkers, but now it's just going to be the Blink Feign. He's getting the Robo coming up now. He's adding his 4 gases. Scout gets denied here again. He still doesn't know what's up, but seeing that probe is obviously going to let him know that it's not going to be just a Forge and a Robo. Something is going on here. Scouting it so far has been impossible, but he gets an eBay. It's going to allow him to get a fast +1 here, as well as get turrets up for possible oracles. You know, any DTs he may encounter. Just wants to keep himself safe here.
Yeah. Starting to move out on the map here with a couple of Marauders. He does have those 2 racks with Tech Labs here. He's getting the Stim and the Combat Shields at the same time. This is definitely going to be a strong push, going to force out that Nexus Cannon.
Yeah, and once he hits a few more SCVs here, he's going to be able to have full Marauder production on those Tech Labs as well. Likes to get these Marines out so he can keep the numbers high, as well as get the upgrades so he can afford everything while getting a factory, of course, for medevacs, getting his +1 at the eBay. And this is a lot of pressure coming in here. The Mothership Core has a ton of energy, of course, at this point. Should be able to push this back. MarineKing needs to be careful he doesn't overcommit in this location, because losing his Bioforce here is going to cost him big. This is just such a huge force with both upgrades. I'm not sure if Stats is going to be able to hold this. He might actually have to pull his probes out. This is too much bio with Stim and Combat Shields.
It's a huge amount, man. He did bait out the Nexus Cannon here, and he's just going to wait, it looks like. You know, he could possibly go for the rocks, try to break them down, but a huge blink forward onto all of this bio, losing 3 Stalkers already.
Bit of a mystery here by Stats, but now MarineKing has so much bio here. I think he thought it was just combat shields. He underestimated the fact that Stim was there because Stim wasn't ready yet. So MarineKing didn't show it. So he's like, well, if you had Stim, you probably would have used it, right? I'm going to chase you down and use Blink Stalker Micro. Few Stalkers get warped in here, but just to their death. I think a bit of a panicked reaction by Stats. Does blink down, but it's going to cost him a lot of hit points here. And his attack timing is totally lost it, you know? He didn't get to move out in pressure at all. And now a few more Stalkers being targeted down, a lot of hit points being lost. And MarineKing's got a second wave of units coming up. Stats trying to take a third base here and trying to get his Colossi out. He needs to make sure those Colossi are well protected because this next wave of bio might be able to do even more damage.
Yep, it's a decent ball here, but at the same time, he was trying to get his tech out here. He does have that factory up here as well as the starport. Back at home here for Stats. Even though he has sustained some damage, he lose a certain amount of Stalkers here as well. He is getting those Colossi out. They're going to be very key in holding that third base. And of course, he needs that Mothership Core. It just gets spawned now, so it's not going to have enough energy to put down anything here for a while.
Nope. And it doesn't have, you know, I mean, it's nearly complete, but this doesn't have any supporting units nearby just yet. He's trying to get that warp in, and he's trying to come down here with those Stalkers.
The Colossus is so key right now. Getting really nice hits here is great. He even blinks forward, taking some decent trades here. MarineKing, though, he's trying to kite.
Doesn't quite have enough. Doesn't quite have enough to have what it takes to push that Nexus down. A third and fourth medevac are going to be on the way here as he sends his first few drop ships across the map to start healing. But I think what he might want to do with these drops is just harass, because at third base with the second Colossus popping out in range soon to be done is going to be very difficult to attack, if not impossible. Something else he has to worry about, though, should he decide to use these drop ships, is Blink. Blink is on the map. He's got several Stalkers, and if he loses these drop ships full of units, he's lost all tempo in the game, and Stats is going to be able to do whatever he wants with that extra gas. He'll take it to third.
Yep. So far, MarineKing is going to come back here to the third and try to pressure. He takes his own third back at home, and he adds that second starport here. He's going to commit very, very heavily to Vikings to deal with all these Colossi. He can also get medevacs at the same time if he chooses to do so. A very confident blink forward from Stats here. The Colossi doing some great damage. Some nice micro and splitting here out of MarineKing as well.
Yep. Really good micro on those Stalkers, though, and he tries to break through with this Marauder Force. It's just not enough, and you know, he doesn't target the Colossi because he doesn't quite have that damage. I think he just wanted to trade there with those Stalkers, because once his Vikings come out, you know, the Colossi aren't as big of a deal if he's eliminated the Stalkers. His Vikings should be able to get some good shots up on those Colossi. And MarineKing has had his own third base up for as long as Stats, so he's had that extra triple mule mining, that extra solid saturation. In fact, they're dead even in worker count right now. So if you consider the fact that some of those are mules, it's going to be you know, a great economy in minerals for MarineKing right now to just bust out all these units. Triple Marauders, quadruple Viking production. He's already got the +1. He's ahead in that regard.
Yeah, but we do see two Forges coming down here out of Stats, and if he begins to Chrono Boost those out while harassing, he can definitely get ahead in those upgrades eventually here, possibly hit 2-2 before MarineKing does, especially if he doesn't add that second engineering bay. MarineKing, like you were mentioning, though, just trying to go heavy on the units here, making a ton of stuff.
Triple Zealot drop, set up, headed towards the bottom right. Gonna start unloading here. MarineKing with no turret, nothing. A few Vikings will spawn in just a second. They can help push this back, but damage is already starting to be done here. 2 SCV kills, 3 SCVs, 4, and even a 5th one. And the Warp Prism just heads around. It escapes. Might end up dropping at the natural. Was keeping this army off Stats' back while he can continue to do very expensive tech choices like Temple Archives, his charge, his 1-1 upgrades he just started. So this play keeps the MarineKing back. And is he just going to pull the boys?
That's what it looks like, man. Already a ton of SCVs going across the map. He's gone up to 10 Vikings here. He's got 4 at a time coming out to supply this as well. These are a lot of boys, man. He had so many SCVs.
He's up 30 army supply as well. This is a huge army right now. Not to mention that the 1-1 upgrades are not done yet. Here we go. Vikings force that Nexus cannon out. They're eating a lot of damage here. Stalkers blink back, which gives the Vikings a strong position. The force fields here buy time for the boys, but Those Colossi are eating some serious damage right now. One falls, the second one is getting pretty low.
So much terrain here. The SCVs in the front to tank everything. The Vikings doing their job here, even trying to take down the Mothership Power before it can put down the Nexus Cannon here. It did have enough energy, and here we go, still pushing up. Not quite enough. Okay, he does get that force field on the ramp that will buy him some time here, but once again, the Mule's already fallen.
The Mule's already fallen. MarineKing knows he's nearly got this one. Stats holding on. He's warping in more sentries right now. Good Stalker Micro needs to get that Colossus back, and the force field's fall. He does not set it up again, and that last Colossus falls. The probes are falling as well. And I think MarineKing has sealed the deal here, Valdez, even landing his Vikings.
He's got it, man. It looks like it. Already beginning to dance in here. There's not enough Protoss. He's going up the main ramp. GG is called.
GG.
MarineKing has done it.
Bringing MVP back into this. Put the glasses on the table. Putting the boys on the table. There's that MarineKing cheerful from earlier. Notice the Reen is lowercase, almost like it's his king, man. My king.
Well,
my man MarineKing.
I mean, that was pretty nice setup there. He was able to take his third base very fast. And like we were saying, the timing of that push was also impeccable. It hit before Storm, it hit before the 1-1, it hit before he had 5 Colossi. It was just like everything was lining up perfectly for MarineKing. He was able to get out enough Vikings with a heavy commitment very early on to 2 starports there. And it was just like almost perfectly executed there out of MarineKing, and that's why it worked so well.
MarineKing with big smiles here. Having a little chat, even Center giving a smile there, and Stats lost a tough game there. MarineKing's pressure wore him down, and it was a beautiful timing. He had all the Vikings he needed. He had a huge power up from Marauders, and that double tech lab pressure. You know, we saw the stim and the combat shields earlier. Did too much damage to Stats. Let MarineKing build up this huge army with the third base he had essentially for free. The upgrades of Stats were late as well, and MarineKing just knew he had this one timing where he could hit him there before the upgrades were ready, before the Colossus count was too high, before Charge, and also before Storm, of course. No Archons, not a single one to be seen on that map. That was literally the perfect timing to attack.
Yeah. Very nicely done by MarineKing. And we were talking about it before. One of the keys here for MVP was to win that first game. And MarineKing, he shows up today. Sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. Today was the day he showed up. And KT, once again, beginning to look a little bit weak.
Yeah. Now, depart.